So what we've said here is it starts with us.
Absolutely.
And us being open. And I put a note to myself that I know that I have to, in order to be trusted, I have to be cognizant, mindful, a part of it. When you work with different groups, you make sure you speak and you sit on the floor and you make sure that you're part of that, right? So we change our behavior to do that. So I put a second concept together and I thought to myself, so let's ask ourselves, back to your point, Gary, let's ask ourselves, have we learned from an industry perspective to self-reflect upon open minds of leaders for the future members? And I want to take it one step forward. We're talking disruption. We're talking innovation labs. We're talking about getting this diverse group involved. Are we ready for that? Is the industry ready to really accept innovation that's outside of the lanes?
Ideas into action. So we have to stop talking and start doing more. I loved your notion of the sense of awe. I think the industry, when we started 100 years ago, there was a lot of curiosity, awe, hunger in the belly to go out and take risk and innovate and do all of that. As we have grown, as we have matured, success, I think study shows size, age, success all settles in that comfortness of inertia. We're kind of at that point right now today that we have to find that honest. And so 3 things I will bring up is, one is forget. So the things that it's intentional forgetting, again, going back to that intention, what worked may not work. What brought us here may not take us to the future. So let's try to be very intentional what things we need to forget. What things we might want to borrow, because there are strong roots. There are care of belonging, care, transparency, ethics, empathy. Those things are foundational. Let's carry on those, but maybe package it with different words and different orientation to resonate to the James of the world. And the third dimension is, what do we need to learn? So it's like this notion of unlearn, learn, and forget. We really have to, and that's where the honest, the vulnerability, the authenticity, that beginner's mind, that childlike energy has to come into play. I think we need to really reflect on those 3 dimensions, in what way we are doing those.
Excellent.
Totally agree, Shazi. And just piggybacking a little bit on the disruption conversation, credit unions are known for disruption. We've been disruptors for a really, really long time. When people were marginalized, when people were not able to access financial services, we got together and we formed credit unions, right? Yeah. So we are disruptors by our nature. And I wonder, now we're talking a lot about fintech and other disruptors in there as threats to our movement. And I wonder, what if we ask ourselves the hard question, what if we were the disruptors of ourselves?
Yeah.
What if we were the disruptors of ourselves? What actions would we take? What would we need to learn, to forget, to unlearn, and then take action and do? I've been thinking a lot about that lately. What would that look like if we were to disrupt ourselves? Interesting concept just to think about. So I have 2 things that I would add to the conversation. One is, we need to acknowledge that young people, we talk about young people as our future, and they are, absolutely. But young people are our right now.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but when I was 11, I was playing outside and gathering rocks, right? I was collecting rocks, right? Today, these young people have voices. They're using their voices and they're not afraid to speak up, not only in their spheres or circles of influence, but around the world. We saw in the videos, we saw in the conversations, all those things. So we need, as an industry, to acknowledge these young people are right now. Now, there was some research recently done with them. 7 seconds is what it takes to be interesting to a Gen Y. It takes 7 seconds to be interesting, not to gather their attention, but to be interesting to them. 7 seconds. Now, another study was done on goldfish. You can hold a goldfish attention for 8 seconds. So you can actually hold a goldfish's attention longer than a kid, right? So what are we going to do with our voices and our messaging to make sure we're interesting to young people? So that's the first one. Acknowledge first and foremost that concept, that we need to be interesting to them, and they are our right now. And if we can turn their voices to use their voices for good, which they're doing, and do it for speaking out on behalf of credit unions because they're doing great work for people, that's awesome. The second one I think we need to acknowledge is that the credit union model works. We saw video after video, conversation after conversation, all across the world. The credit union model worked then, and it works now, and it's going to continue to work. I wonder, though, this is my reflection thinking, how are we articulating that model? Are we articulating in a way that young people, it resonates with young people, right? James, when he and Bob were talking early at the opening, James said, I think credit unions are cool because they care and they should work to remove discrimination. Right? That took less than 7 seconds to say that. They care and they work to remove discrimination. And you know what? That's what credit unions were about at the beginning. That's what we're about today, and that's what we'll continue to be about. And I wonder if we've overcomplicated it somehow with our messaging. Mm-hmm. And we're not always speaking the right language, even though we're on the same page. So what can we learn from that so that we as an industry, as a movement, can continue to be relevant to the next generation, which is our right now?